Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Know with Dr. Aidoo. I hope you are well and that everything is going smoothly. So I'm excited because today I have another interview and I have it with Dr. Jesse Guessford. He is the Director of Curriculum and Initiatives for Undergraduate Education. That's one title he has, but I want him to tell us more about his role at Mason. So let's go meet Dr. Jesse Guessford. Hello, Dr. Guessford.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing good. So thank you so much for taking time to come speak with me. Um, can you tell us a little bit about how long you have been at Mason and also some more detail about your role or
Yeah,
roles? I
I've
know
been at
that's
I've been at Mason too long. I think it's 16 years this year.
oh wow.
I started
Okay.
as an adjunct professor
Mm-hmm,
in music and moved then on to tenure track role. Went through
mm-hmm.
the tenure process and then had the pleasure of moving into administration and working in undergraduate education, specifically in that role of director of curriculum and initiatives for the last 5 years.
Right. And I saw on one of the places I was looking up some more information, you're director of a center also, or of a
Yeah, I was
program.
the director of music technology. I started the
Mhm.
music technology program, which became pretty successful. I was pretty
Yeah,
proud of what I'd done there, and that still continues on. I get to teach occasionally in it, which is
right,
fun. But
right.
other people have taken on the day-to-day activities of that, and I get to just come in ever so often and say, "Oh, this is fantastic."
Oh, good. Well, your plate is full, so you don't need one more thing. So I know, and full disclosure, you and I serve on one committee, faculty and curricular activities committee.
Hmm.
um, where we do some work around Mason Impact and Summer Impact. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about those programs.
Yeah, the summer impact team program or summer team impact
Yeah,
program, I should say, STIP,
yeah, okay.
is a fantastic program, and I think it's one that I'm really proud of, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really happy that I get to oversee.
Right.
That's when a team of faculty members, usually 3 to 5 faculty members, get together and decide a question or a problem that they want
Mm-hmm.
students to help them
Right.
research,
Right.
investigate, think about, uh, and then if they are funded, if that team, their proposals get funded,
Right.
then they get to hire on 6 to 10 undergraduates who work on that over a 10-week period over the summer,
Mm-hmm.
and get to really dive deeply into the question that the
Right.
faculty members have proposed.
Right.
I got to do the first summer of these. I actually got to be a faculty mentor on one. It was before I had
Oh,
taken on this role. It was one of the things that actually drew me to this role. And it
right.
was such a fantastic experience to have the time on task to really work with a small group of students for an extended period of time was just so meaningful to me as a faculty member, but I think
Uh-huh.
also seeing the transformation of the students over that time and
Right.
their passion. In my case, it was exploring the manuscripts of a very unknown German composer from the 1700s, who the Library of Congress happened to have their entire manuscript collection.
Oh, okay.
So we got to actually work with the actual manuscripts from the 1700s. The students got to translate that into modern notation, and then we actually performed them at the end of the summer.
Oh,
So it was I think the most fun was just that time, the time with the students that you don't get. You get them what, an hour, 2 hours in
mm-hmm.
class. This is 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That you can spend with the students and really digging into something deep. And I think it ended up being such a meaningful thing for me when the position opened up to actually run the program. I jumped on that and I thought that would be fabulous.
Yeah. And I think a key part of what you said is undergraduate students being a part of this experience. So that's
Yes, its focus is on that team of
mm-hmm.
students who are doing it as undergraduate.
Right.
Graduate students can be part of the mentorship team.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be faculty and graduate students who are part of that mentor. But of course, graduate students are in that in between space, right? They're
Right. Exactly.
they're they're going to be, learning how to mentor from their faculty
Right.
mentors, right? But they're also kind of doing the research, but they're also learning how to mentor. So they're in that nice in between space for. for
Right.
them, which is important skill sets for them to pick up before they head out into the world.
Yeah. And then how about the Mason impact?
So Mason Impact is an umbrella term for a lot of different things.
Okay.
We really think about high impact practices or experiential learning, right? So under that would be a couple of different offices. OSCAR,
Mhm.
our Office of Student Scholarship, Creative Activities and Research. CECL, which is
Right.
Community Engagement and Civic Learning, but also our Office of Fellowships,
Hmm.
would all be included under that Mason Impact. And I should also say University Studies, which has some fantastic courses, both transition to the university, which maybe some of the students had taken, University
Right.
100, but also
Right.
some classes about transitioning from the university, beyond the university,
Oh,
career
okay.
readiness courses, courses in how to apply for grad school. Those types of courses are
Right.
available for that. So kind of think of Mason Impact as a way to collect all those activities happening at once, in
Right.
one big umbrella. And there's a lot of great opportunities for both faculty and students in all of those offices.
Right.
And the other really nice thing for students is if they do a project through one of those offices or through a course, they're probably already taking a course that's either
Right.
RS or CECL designated.
Right.
They can get a transcript notation that actually is the name of their project that goes on their transcript. And that way, when they're going out for a job or going to look at grad schools, they can point to
Right.
that on their transcript and say, yeah, I took that class that's kind of named as like internship or capstone project,
Right.
right? But
Right.
this is what I actually did. And
Yeah.
here's what the university actually says that I did, right? So they actually even have some backing from us that says, yes, they did do that really cool project on that specific topic.
Right. So it's almost getting a twofer, right? You get the
Mm.
credit or the grade for that class, but then you have this notation that
Hmm.
adds weight to it not just being a class you took, but you did something substantive.
Right, right. And that's the
Yeah.
idea with the Mason Impact projects, right? That you're
Yeah.
doing a project that really, can happen within a class. It can happen within a registered student org. It can
Hmm.
happen with a one-on-one mentorship from a faculty member, but
Right.
all those things can be captured and actually included in on the transcript.
That's really cool. So we have these two pieces, right, that are happening. And so for faculty, let's go with faculty.
Sure.
Why should faculty want to sign up for any of this? Because on the surface, it's like that's extra work.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
no.
know.
Totally understand. The good news is a lot of this extra work has led to additional funding, additional resources, right?
Yes.
We provide some, the summer team, for instance, faculty do get paid a small amount for their time during the
Right.
summer. All the programs, I'm thinking of the Undergrad Research Scholars Program and Oscar, you get a
Yeah.
little bit of funding. It's
Hmm.
not really why you're doing it, right? It's a
Hmm.
little bit of us almost saying thank you.
Hmm.
However, especially with Summer Team, we've seen several of those turn into larger research projects that have received national funding
Okay.
at really high amounts that
Right.
allow that the faculty actually treat these programs as little seed funding, right? So that
Right.
you can explore a single idea pretty cheaply, pretty easily for you, right? It's 10 weeks over
Hmm.
the summer. Sometimes those undergraduates can really produce some really nice things that you can then
That's right.
take
Yeah.
and leverage for NIH or NSF
Hmm.
funding in the future. And several of the projects have had, well, example would be the statues, the new enslaved
Yeah.
people of George Mason statues, started as
Right.
a summer team impact project looking
Yes.
at the children, the enslaved children of George Mason, and that
Right.
project expanded out. And now we have a beautiful monument
Right.
in the middle of campus because of that, right? So that's let's say, a social result of it, but we've
Right.
also had grants that have received $30 million
Hmm.
continuation
Hmm.
resources to continue their research, not necessarily with our undergrads that started it, but it blossoms out to be a much bigger thing.
Right.
So there's the altruistic, it's really good to work with the undergrads, right? And it's
Right.
really nice, but for all faculty, right, you can get work out of our undergraduates that can continue your career, right?
Your
Papers,
professional growth. Yeah.
conferences, additional funding can all come
Right.
out of your work with the undergraduates.
Right. I wanted to clarify a piece because with the summer team one,
Mhm.
you talked about how faculty come together. Um, is there an expectation that these would be faculty members from different programs, or it can be from the same program?
They can be from the same program, but we love to see a multidisciplinary approach, because
Right,
typically those 6 to 10 undergraduates who will be hired to do the actual problem solving
right,
are probably going to be coming from lots of different backgrounds. We actually
right,
encourage that, right? It's an open call across the university for
right,
anyone interested. So students who
right,
are interested in participating in that can look for those in February. Those jobs will be
right,
posted on Handshake.
right,
So the faculty members having different backgrounds is actually really good for recruitment too. Like they can
right.
post it in their departments, on their department listservs and bulletin boards and all
Newsletters,
those things.
yeah.
And you get, I think the teams that have been more multidisciplinary have
Hmm.
really found great interest because of that multidisciplinarity, right?
Right.
Students sitting there next to each other realizing that there's another student with an expertise that's totally different than theirs,
Yes.
right? Than that what they see every day in class, right? Especially when you get up into your 300 and 400 level classes,
Hmm.
everybody knows the same thing,
Hmm.
right? Or should, right? That's what we hope, right? Um,
Right.
but then all of a sudden you're in with somebody else in a whole different set of 300 and 400 level classes who are experts in something completely different that you have no clue about, right? And
Right.
I will say our students have uh, really, I think, found joy and have been in awe sometimes of each other
Hmm.
at what each other can do, right?
Right. Right. So you kind of leading me into my next question, which is, you know, undergraduate students, they are here for a limited time. They
Mm,
typically have a very set, focus. And now we are offering these what, and again, I already said I'm a part of it because I believe these are rich experiences. But I want you to tell us some more how you think this is beneficial for students, especially undergraduate students for whom, research doesn't typically, or
mm.
some of these applied um, components to their classes is not, that's not the norm. I think this is a really impressive thing we do here at Mason. So
Yeah. Well,
what would you?
I'm glad you feel that way, first of
I
all.
do, I do.
Uh, I think what it is for students, especially during the summer, right? It's
Hmm.
a chance for the students to explore,
Hmm.
right? Do something that may benefit. Some students are doing it because they want to go to med school, right? And
Right.
having that research experience is a good check mark to have, right? Some are
Yeah.
thinking about grad school already, and
Hmm.
that research experience is fantastic for them, right?
Right.
For those students who aren't sure, right? Aren't sure what path lies in front of them, which I fully understand as well.
Hmm.
Uh, this is a chance to try something, right? try
Right.
try on a field that you might be interested in, right? What is it like to be out there and be a researcher? What is it like to answer that question? Or maybe I'm just really interested in that thing, right? And I probably won't do anything remotely like this in the future, but I'm
Right.
interested in that. And boy, getting paid to do that is a lot more interesting than going and working somewhere else over the summer, right? Just to
Right.
get a paycheck, right? I can get a
Right.
paycheck and build on my experience, right? That I can talk about at a job interview, right? And say,
Hmm.
oh, I did this. I got to work with a small group. And for instance, we sent a group to Kenya last summer, and they spent
Right. Right.
4 weeks in Kenya, right?
Hmm.
Looking at disease and how diseases spread. In fact, had an epidemic happen while they were in Kenya that they got
Right.
to. They actually was an
Oh,
epidemic
wow.
on the in the little area research area they were at, and they got to find
Wow.
out why it was happening, right?
Hmm.
Like, and all those students may not go on to grad school from there, but that experience is going to change how they look at the world. It's going
Right.
to change how they look at their studies. It's going to change how they look at their job and their career path moving forward. And
Right.
I think that, to what you were saying earlier, I think that's where that really becomes important for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about that checkbox for the next level in life, right? It really is about getting a broad liberal arts education
Right.
right? And part of that is getting some hands-on experience in different ways, right? And getting into a problem and digging into it in a really meaningful way.
Which is why I think having or trying to encourage the multidiscipline
Mm-hmm.
focus tends to, I think, be really great because then you are really expanding out of what is your narrow focus for
Yeah,
your
and
degree.
we really encourage those programs to, advertise broadly and look at students
Mhm.
broadly, because it's not always, some of the best students in those projects have come back to not be in that area of study at all, right?
Right.
They
Right.
just found it interesting, thought it would be an interesting experience. They got a little bit of classwork in the beginning, right? Enough to bring them up to speed. And
Yeah.
then they had a fantastic, productive summer after
Right.
that.
So I am going off believing that students have heard this and they're like, I want to do this. I want to be a part of
I
this.
hope so. I hope so.
That's the dream and that's the hope. So if a student, an undergrad student, was like, I want to try,
Mhm.
what are some steps they can take?
Yeah, for the summer team specifically, those postings of the positions, for the faculty, unfortunately, the proposals are due on Friday, right? So it's a little
Oh,
too tight for that, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's okay. We will you will read right, some of those
yes, I
coming
will.
up, and we will decide at the end of this year, right before we go away for the winter break. Then in February, jobs will actually get posted to Handshake.
Handshake. Okay.
Usually always do it actually on Valentine's Day. You can be with your special someone and apply for a summer research position. Um, so on Valentine's Day, those open up and they stay open for about a month.
Okay.
Um, and what happens is, you apply just like any other position. You apply,
Right.
you put your best foot forward,
Mhm.
write a little letter about why you find this topic interesting. We usually try to have all the projects really lay out what the student's going to do over the summer.
Mhm.
I would say so far what I've seen come in terms of proposals already have been varied and interesting.
Okay.
So we shall see what comes up. But in the past we've had things from doing One Health research in Kenya. Last summer we had people looking at storytelling in the eastern shores of Maryland and trying to collect
Right.
stories of especially of the Black community there.
Mhm.
Um, Group that went into Shenandoah and did mapping of peoples and trying to figure out what was going, what has happened historically through land records. And we had the fourth group was in Southern Virginia working with the Chickahominy tribe
Yeah.
and mapping their land usage that they just got back from the Commonwealth, right? So they got all this land back and didn't know what it was good for, what they could use it for. And so
Right.
our students were down working with the tribe, trying to figure those things out, right? So really varietous,
Right.
um, different things with different needs and different student skill sets that were
Right.
needed for all those, and some of them didn't need any, right? Like they just wanted students who were interested, right?
Yeah.
um Going out and collecting stories, right? People who are interested in just doing that, right? So students, I would say, don't be scared about what it says on there, right?
Yeah.
If the topic interests you, go ahead and put your name in, right? And what happens from there is the faculty look through the resumes and
Mhm.
choose who to interview and talk to and figure out who they think would make the best team.
Right. And you mentioned something about that, you know, students will have the opportunity to have some baseline instruction about what it is. So even if it's not your typical area, there are still opportunities for you to be brought up to speed.
Yeah,
So
pretty much everybody's adopted the first week boot camp model,
yeah, yeah.
of the proposal, which we kind of encourage, but everyone seems to realize, yeah, this is the best way to do it. I mean,
Yeah,
even if let's say there is an area with two interests, right? That they're
yeah,
a multidisciplinary, where we're coming at it from two facets, right?
right.
What happens a lot is those two units use very different vocabulary to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the same issues and the same problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that boot camp can even be useful just to say, hey, this is the terminology we're going to use. This is
Right,
the language we're going to use around it. This is what we're going to call this group. This is how we're going to
right,
interact, right?
right.
So a lot of times it's not even it's about norming our knowledge so that
Right.
we're all on the same page as we move forward. What actually moves to more interdisciplinary research at that point, or
Right.
transdisciplinary.
Right.
But that's really the goal of that first week. So students don't be scared. You'll get that. You'll get it. You'll all be
You
together.
get it. Yeah. You will be well prepared to
And
go
what's
in.
another nice part for students, right? It is supposed to be their full-time job, right? We're going to be paying $6,000 for the summer for 10
Hey,
weeks.
yes.
Trying to stay above minimum wage here in the Commonwealth, which is fantastic that that's all rising, but it means
Yeah.
we have to keep paying the students more.
Yeah.
Uh, it's your focus. And I think that
Right.
when it's your focus, you realize how much time you can spend and how much you can really learn during that time when
Right.
that is what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? You were spending the day reading some articles, talking together, thinking about stuff. It's fantastic for that.
Yeah. And with the Mason impact, if a faculty member was like, okay, I hear
Mm,
you, how can I get my course to count? So I guess
yeah.
that's the piece of clarification. Is it
Yeah.
the course that is designated, or is it work that students do, or is both?
Both. So let me
It's
let
both.
me let me specify. So from a faculty perspective, it's the course and some of the
Right.
benefits of getting your course. So the way to get your course, let's start there. The way to
Mhm.
get your course identified would be working with your scheduling coordinator or
Mhm.
your catalog
Mhm.
editor. They can help you get it through the system to get
Okay.
it as either NI, which is Mason Impact, which is
Mhm.
any course that you feel prepares students to tackle some of these large questions and problems, right? So that could be, a research methods class. That can be anything that is like, even English 302, for instance, is
Mhm.
one, right?
Mhm.
Any course that you're like, boy, we aren't tackling a problem here, but if we don't do this, we're never going to be able to ask that question later, right?
Right. Right.
Then there's project-based classes. We call them Mason Impact Plus, right? So
Right.
these are going to be research and scholarship. If your course is mostly doing research-based questions, there's community engagement and civic learning, CECL, which is if you're doing community-based problems and questions and really trying to do projects around that. And we
Mhm.
also have ENTR, which is kind of career-driven, entrepreneurship-driven
Right.
courses.
Right.
So, and what I say to faculty is, you're actually going to have probably students doing a variety of projects that could fall into any of these buckets. What are most
Right.
of your students going to do? Right.
Okay.
And that's the bucket you should fall into. Right.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so you could apply for the project-based course, and that's just
Right.
Mason Impact Plus. When your catalog editor goes in and you pick which one it has.
Okay.
The masonimpact.gmu.edu has
The
all
information.
of the ways and all the kind of steps that you need to do all that. Now,
Okay.
why would you want to do that? Is a better question, maybe,
Right. Right. Right.
that I can answer for you. One is it gives you access to micro grants, which are $500 little grants to do stuff in your course. You want to
Hmm.
have a guest speaker. You want to take
Yeah.
your students on a field trip. You need some supplies that your course can't really happen without that, but we all know that our departments do not have $500 extra for you to buy supplies for your course, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That grant is there specifically to help you do these extra high impact practices
Okay.
that won't happen any other way, really, right?
Right.
Uh, so that's one really big benefit um, for the course, right? And it's
Yeah.
fantastic for that.
Yes.
So that's one reason to get it designated. Once it's designated, you can apply for this money. So if we have one little carrot for you, that's it. The other
Right.
is for the Mason Impact Plus, then your students can get that transcript designation.
Okay. Okay.
And that's really, I have been surprised how much students want that and like that.
Okay.
That's actually something desirable for students. So that maybe, if that's enough of a trigger for you as a faculty member to say, okay, students are interested in that, I can do a little bit of
Yeah.
the paperwork and get that available to students. Um, the students would then be eligible for our mini grants, which are $500 for them to do their project. And that
Right.
could be a team project, that could be an individual project. They just sometimes need a little bit of money for either participants or
Right.
a couple of pieces of equipment, or
Uh-huh.
sometimes it's a database, access to a database that they need,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we can provide those funds for students to be able to, just in time, to be able to finish their project or just do their project at all.
So what I'm hearing is everybody's winning.
I think so. I think very
Everybody's
much
winning.
that's true. Yes.
Yes.
I think so. I think it's well worth the little bit of paperwork
Right.
to be able to have access to all that for both you and your students.
And you had me at the grant for the courses.
The
You had
course
me right
grant
there.
is fantastic, and the faculty that do it, I would say we have a lot of returners who come back, but with different ideas every time, right?
Right.
It's this guest speaker this year, it's a different guest speaker the next year, or
Right.
it's a trip to Jerry Connolly's local office
Right.
to present what the students have been doing all semester to
Right.
him and his staff, right? Like
Right.
those kind of things that are hard and would be exclusive if we did it without funding, right? So
Right.
only some students would be able to do it. By
Yes.
having funding, it immediately becomes inclusive, right?
That's
And
right.
then we can rent that bus and everybody can get on the bus and get over there, right?
And
And so
that's a very important piece for sure.
yeah, yeah.
So you did tease um the answer to this question about some deadlines.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
So one is all right. You said Friday.
Yeah, unfortunately, the summer team impact proposals from the faculty are due this Friday. Um,
Okay.
but that's always just get that. That's always going to be the cadence. It's going to be right around Thanksgiving every
Okay.
year.
So if not
So
this year,
if not
going.
this year, you always have next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the students, that's going to be looking around February, around Valentine's Day for those positions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it usually ends about a month later, March, so
Mm-hmm.
that time, which is when people really start, the students are usually thinking about what am I going to do this summer?
Right.
It's rolling up on me. Perfect time to get those applications, those resumes in for those positions.
Right.
I would also encourage everyone to look at both Oscar's website,
Mm-hmm.
oscar.gmu.edu, and Cecil's website, cecil.gmu.edu,
Right.
for
Yeah.
opportunities with each of those offices
Right.
or there are different things going on. I know Cecil has a summer specific fellows. They actually go work out in community groups and with
Okay.
community groups throughout the summer. Oscar, of course, has their one-on-one research mentorship, the
Yes.
URSP program that also happens during the summer. Both
Yes.
of those over the summer will also pay you $6,000 to actually do these projects, right? So you don't have to worry about that summer job. You got it right here, right? You don't have to leave campus even for it. So, and I will say for students, also the benefit is there's been a lot of studies that show you working on campus and you doing these extra things
Right.
benefit your GPA,
Right.
benefit your time to graduation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so all these things that aren't about even the thing that you're doing, right?
Right.
It just gets you more engaged and gets you more involved and
And
get you
focused.
to focus to get you to where you want to be, which is that
That's right.
graduation, and where we want you to go, which is graduation, right? So
Right.
that's the other encouragement I would say for all those things.
So that's, I think, very helpful information. So you have these team impact grants that are going to come through faculty having applied and been approved, but then you can also look to Oscar directly and Cecil directly. I'll
Mm-hmm.
make sure to include all those web sites.
And I would add one more is that once you've done all those, look for Office of Fellowships and get a nationally competitive award because of all the cool things you've already done here at Mason.
Look at
So
that. So, I mean, you can't but win if you.
I totally think that, right? And the
Absolutely.
thing is, all these resources are there for students, right? And all these
Yeah.
fantastic programs are there.
Yeah.
Just get out, and for the students, get out there and get involved and do it, right? And that's
Right.
going to only help them moving forward.
And I mean, again, I do get to participate in some small way with some of the work that your office does. And I think it is a precious secret that, and that's part of why I wanted to talk to you, because I don't think as many people know it that should know it, or, they know bits and pieces of it. So this is really, really important information and very helpful. So thank you for that. So as we come to the end of this conversation, and we could go for, I know, some more time, but I don't want to take too much of your time. Are there any final thoughts? What is your last pitch to
My
first
last
faculty and then to students?
my last pitch to faculty is to really think about how to include these high impact practices in your class itself. How can we get students to think about larger projects and larger questions problems in your field, outside of your field, connect it tangentially to your field, right?
Mhm.
And where can that happen in to even think about the curriculum itself,
Right.
and to where can we put that in the curriculum that doesn't mean this has to be an extra experience for students,
Mhm.
right? That it's a built into the curriculum, the courses that they have to take to graduate
Right.
as one of these experiences built in. Is it as robust as a summer team, right? Maybe not, right? But boy, it does make a difference to the
Right.
students to be able to have this project that they've
Right.
been really heavily involved with. So that's a faculty I would challenge, if you don't already have one in your major, right? That's available to everyone. Say, well, how could we do this, right? How could we
Okay.
really create that?
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if it's research or civic engagement or
Right.
entrepreneurship, right? It's
Right.
how do we make that project happen? For students, I would say this is a great opportunity to both, prepare your next steps, right?
Mhm.
Wherever it may be, grad school or a job or wherever,
Mhm.
but also to really get a chance to explore deeply something,
Mhm.
right? We often don't get that time
Right.
because we've got 5 classes with really 5 different topics and 5 different
Mhm.
deadlines, and we're being successful in there and doing the best we can, right? Having one of these opportunities allows you to really have time to dig deeply into something and learn a lot about yourself, about the topic, about other things that surround it. And really, I think
Right.
it transforms the way you think
Right.
about the world.
So there you have it, folks. Again, two very important opportunities for you, either the Mason Impact route or the Summer Team Impact route. And again, I will include some of the web sites that Dr. Guessford mentioned. Check them out, take advantage of these resources. I know he's working hard because I'm soon going to get emails that
Yep.
indicate it's time to go. But again, don't don't let these opportunities pass you by. So thank you again so much, Dr. Guessford. Um, thank you everyone for listening. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving break at some point next week. And then let's finish the semester strongly. But again, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.